Hey there, welcome. I'm Damien and I'm just another starving artist on the internet. So this is the 8th entry of my character design journal, and in my last video I designed these two characters you see here, and in this one I'll be designing another character that I'm not entirely sure how to define in words, but I'll still do my best to explain what was going on in my mind while I was working on it. Though I have to say that this is actually the first character that I thought of when I started working on this project. So I had been thinking and designing this character in the back of my head for quite a while, before I started drawing anything. His name is Acorde Pagani. Acorde meaning chord in Spanish, as in the chord for a guitar or violin, and Pagani being the plural for pagan in Italian. But it's also a reference to the violinist and composer Niccolo Paganini. So Paganini was so good at the violin that it inspired a play written by this person, and I swear that is his real name, and I'm not going to say it out loud because YouTube is listening and doesn't understand context. Anyway, in this play Paganini accidentally makes a deal with the devil, and that's why he's so good at playing the violin. And I'm sure it's not the first time you've heard the stories of musicians meeting the devil at crossroads or stuff like that. And that will be referenced later on in Accorde's character arc. I'm not giving many details to avoid spoilers in case anyone finds these videos in the future when I have actually published and finished this project. So, just saying. So going with the whole deal with the devil thing, I approached this design wanting to give Acorde a sort of vampire-like appearance. But since he's a musician as well, I didn't want his design to resemble traditional depictions of vampire, was just not much to them, although they're novels and they're creepy. So yeah, I kept thinking for a while, then it hit me. A gothic bath. Yeah, I'm sure I'm not the first person to come up with that idea. It will be unbelievably pretentious of me to think such a thing. But I thought it was a really good idea, so let me enjoy it. So before I came up with the gothic bard idea, I was trying some long coats with tall colors, trying to think of ways to partially hide his face from specific angles, to make him look more mysterious and stuff, and going with the vampire thing and all. It wasn't working. I couldn't find a way to include his violin in a way that didn't disrupt the design too much, because you will only find this character traveling around, and he's not simply carrying his violin in his hand without a case. What kind of self-respecting musician will do that to their instruments, right? So he will be carrying the case like this, and this strap is what didn't fit with the design I was going for. The outfit didn't seem like it was particularly comfortable to travel with either, so I needed it to be more traveling bard than goth. And that also describes the personality of the character quite well, actually. So moving on with this approach, some couple of weeks before I started designing Acorde, I just happened to stumble upon a movie adaptation of The Three Musketeers on TV. The one with Orlando Bloom on it. Terrible movie, don't watch it, I don't recommend it. However, set and costume design was actually very decent. So I went and looked up some pictures of the movie, so that I could steal some elements from the costume design, like the cape on one side of the character, which I included because, as I said before, I wanted part of his face to be covered, so why not literally half of his body as well. And he's carrying his violin case on this side, so I don't have to draw it, at least not yet. And I also took most of the general shape of the clothes, since they're, in a way, kind of designed to be comfortable for travel, as well as sort of realistic. So you can look that up if you'll see what I mean. And of course I looked up other references as well, like the bard designs for Final Fantasy by Ayumi Namae. Ayumi Namae is one of my favorite character designers ever, obviously way better than I am. And actually, now that I think about it, most of my favorite character designers work for Square Enix, so I recommend looking them up. I had some other references as well, but they played such a minor role that I don't really remember them anymore, and I didn't save them. So they're not really worth mentioning. And in terms of color palettes, yes, I mostly copied Namae's palettes, having dark blues with red and brown accents. I tried to steer more into the gothic side by practically removing any whites and making half of the design so dark that the blue literally just looks black. So now let's have a look at the finished drawing. So as you can sort of see here, I went with the same idea I had for Brunhilde, where all of the character lines are fanning out from the top, making a big, basically a really big triangle. That doesn't look like a triangle, like that. Right, and I try to avoid doing too many parallel, completely horizontal lines, with the exception of this. Now that I think about it, perhaps I will need to change it later. But yeah, you can see that there's several stripes going diagonally, trying to avoid making the character look too parallel. And I also wanted it to look asymmetrical with the cape and everything. This strap you see here, remember I said that at least I don't need to draw the violin case yet. Okay, yeah, in this version, this one is just a sketch. I will polish it later. You can see the violin case here, and it's being held by this strap over here. So that's why I said I don't need to draw it yet. But it will be drawn, nonetheless. There's also triangles on the hats, by the way. The hair is basically a triangle, very triangular chin. This also spikes out like a triangle. There's very sharp a lot of sharp edges on this character. And yeah, that's the end of the video. So if you like what I do, give it a like, subscribe, and you know, all the stuff that makes the algorithm happy. Make sure to check my other social media in the description below, and I'm always open to suggestions and constructive criticism, so let me know what you think about the character in the comments. And as always, keep drawing, stay creative, and see you next time.